Well, the eyes of the nation were once again focused on Washington today as Prime Minister Mark met face-to-face again with U.S. President Donald Trump. They've gotten together a few times now, and the meetings do seem to be fairly cordial and friendly, perhaps even more so today. Joining us tonight with his views on what's been happening, we're always happy to welcome former Nova Scotia Cabinet Minister Peter MacKay. Thanks for finding some time for us tonight, Peter. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Bruce.
There was a half-hour-long news conference in the Oval Office before today's working lunch. The president certainly did seem to be generous with his praise of MacKay. He called him a good man and a great negotiator, but added that he wants to be a great man, too. There was significant pressure on Mr. Carney as soon as this trip was announced because, as you've noted, he was essentially elected because he was presumed to be the best man to negotiate with Donald Trump. So what do you think? Or is it possible there might be a deal?
Well, you know, hope burns eternal, and it was a very jovial discussion. There was a lot of joking, some toing and froing, so that personal rapport is important. But, you know, to use that well-worn expression, the rubber hits the road when it comes to tariffs. As Prime Minister Carney was getting off the plane, the president was imposing more tariffs, not less. He put tariffs on trucks, heavy-duty and light-duty trucks. And that's, you know, in addition to what we've seen on steel, on softwood, on furniture, on copper. These tariffs are really starting to bite the Canadian economy, and they will continue to do so without some relief.
At the same time, I was just going to say, at the same time, the president's saying today, and I'm quoting here, I think they, meaning Canada, are going to walk away very happy, and the people of Canada will love us again. I don't know whether, is that some kind of negotiating tactic?
Well, yes, it is. And we've seen this type of rhetoric before, and the praise that he heaped on Prime Minister Carney. He actually said nice things about his predecessor as well, but it belayed the reality that there was a great deal of animosity and tension. And so it's very hard. It's sort of like a crocodile smile. We're waiting to see the tangible results of these meetings, these negotiations. And you can be sure, Bruce, that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes discussion that's happening. We've heard messaging from the ambassador to Canada from the United States. We've heard other messaging from Dominic LeBlanc, who is central to all of this. But ultimately, this comes down to President Trump making the important decision that he is going to give Canada the type of trade deal that we had before, preferred access to their economy, the largest economy in the world. So much is riding on this. This is, you know, to use a baseball analogy, this is the second strike that we've had without anything coming out yet that we're aware of. We need the Prime Minister to succeed. This isn't a partisan issue. This is about the Canadian economy and how we may wind up in a recession in the new year if we don't have some relief in an economy that is sputtering.
Do you think the current stalemate in Washington over the government shutdown is playing a role in this? Like, you know, if you can't get domestic affairs moving, then let's deal with the foreign affairs for a while.
There's no question that there is a great deal on the U.S. administration's plate, and Prime Minister Carney rightly pointed out and gave credit to what the president was trying to do in terms of foreign affairs in the Middle East, in terms of other trade deals that he has been able to sign with many parts of the world, many allies, whether it's in the Asia Pacific, the European Union, the UK. And by the way, Canada has free trade with many of those countries, more, in fact, than the United States. We just haven't been able to capitalize on it to the same degree, and we're a smaller economy. So diversifying trade is a good thing, but we can never really, you know, decouple ourselves from the United States. And so it's a fine line to walk. Plus, we've taken some steps that I think have caused some irritation in the administration. It was reflective of the mood in Canada, but this elbows up nonsense, quite frankly, quickly disappeared after the election. Choosing to make a recognition of the Palestinian state, which went completely against U.S. policy and Canada's longstanding position. That was an irritant. So it's a very, very delicate dance that we have going on with the U.S. And the Prime Minister is looking for a way to mix metaphors, thread multiple needles in a hurricane.
The irritants go both ways, though, as you well know.
Right.
The whole 51st state thing has offended so many Canadians. And I think you told our friends at News Channel last week that while, that offends a whole lot of people, it's probably not something being seriously discussed behind closed doors. But it, again, could be an effective bargaining tactic if you say it publicly.
I think it is a leverage and something that the president seemingly has fixated on. He has said this repeatedly in jest at times, but I think there is a part of him that really believes that the United States could expand. And he has said similar things about Greenland. I personally don't think it's ever going to happen. And yet the fact that he keeps bringing this up has caused, I think, a lot of discomfort. And it has made things more complicated because it offends people. It's caused Canadians to not go to the United States, to sell their property, to not buy American products. And that makes this mix even more difficult to sort out.
Some, well, as you said just a few minutes ago, and some industries and politicians on the other side of the House has warned that Carney has got to come home with something here, or there are going to be serious questions about how effective he actually is. What is the minimum he can bring home, the very least, in your mind?
Well, I think it would be relief for some of the sectors in Canada, whether it's the steel, the metals, the softwood, trucks. The auto sector, I think, is really under a lot of pressure in Ontario in particular. So some relief on one of those files, being able to have a signal that we are, in fact, actually back on track to renew the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, because that has also been thrown into question. And let's not forget for a moment that it was this president who actually opened up and then signed this new trade agreement. Sure. Mexico, interestingly, has been kind of quiet, and yet they have avoided some of the wrath and some of the rhetoric that we see coming from the president. But I would say that's a minimum, or the Prime Minister is going to increasingly come under pressure, not just by political opposition, but by many of these sectors and others who may feel threatened. Thankfully, the Atlantic Canadian fishery has not been one thus far, and we don't appear to be in the crosshairs of the president.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure. Peter, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce.
Peter MacKay, a prominent cabinet minister for a decade in the government of Stephen Harper, an MP for almost twice that long, joining us tonight from his home in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Stay with us. There's lots more to come.